You are listening to the Wildlife Photography Podcast with Rob Reed and Josh Galicki, bringing together the love of nature and photography. Episode 47, What Makes a Photograph Creative? And we have a special announcement. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wildlife Photography Podcast with me, Rob Reed, and my co-host, Josh Galicki. Josh, it's been ages since we've spoken and since we recorded an episode. What's been going on?
It has. We've taken a little bit of a relaxed posture, but we're going to be pretty busy in the next couple of months. So this is good news for us and hopefully for everybody listening. But yeah, it's been busy, Rob, from a shooting perspective. It's we're kind of at the end of spring. I tried to get out as much as I could over the past few weekends, and it's been fairly productive as spring is here in the Northeast U.S. A lot of things are moving through, so was able to get up to Pennsylvania to do some woodland shoots for songbirds, did some shorebirds down here on the Eastern Shore, did some marsh birds, had some decent luck out back, and been working on some presentations. I spoke to a couple camera clubs over the past few weeks, and I'm actually working on a presentation. I'm going to speak the Journal of Wildlife Photography, or JOWP. I'm going to give a presentation on shooting like a pro, it's called. So I'm working on the deck right now and some of the images, so it's been keeping me busy, but pretty productive for this time of year. How about you?
I know about working on presentations because obviously we're going to Bird Fair, as we've mentioned before. So yeah. I can't believe how that's sort of coming around so quickly now. We're only, 3.5 weeks away or whatever it is. And, oh, God, so I'm starting to, not panic, but you know what sets in is you just think, I can't believe it's so close. What haven't I done? So yeah, part of that is I'm talking on the owl stand or whatever they call it on Friday afternoon on creative photography, funnily enough. So if you're at Bird Fair, look me up there and come and take your seat and hopefully be inspired for 45 minutes. So yeah, I'm just putting that together. And of course, Josh and I will be there for the 3 days. So if you are coming to Bird Fair, we're going to be in the Puffin Marquee, which is basically the art marquee. I can't remember the stand. I think it's stand 36 or something, but you'll find us. We're going to be right by the mural. Every year they paint this mural that various artists come and contribute to. So you'll see it. We're going to be next to that. And Vic's going to be on the other side. Victoria Hillman's going to be on the other side of us as well. So all friends together. So that's going to be a really enjoyable 3 days. And we're going to be recording podcasts there as well.
Yeah, so it's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
And we're going to run into, for the folks who are listening, please, if you're going to be there, stop by. I can't wait to meet. There's so many people I have not met in person that I've spoken with over the years. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And Rob, I haven't seen you in person. Well, when was the last time? A couple of years ago. It's been a couple of years since we've seen each other.
I think it was it 3? I was 23 because you were just
23
on the way back from Shetland.
That's right. Yeah, with Curram.
We met with Curram, and we met in Heathrow Airport. Yeah. That's it. So God, I can't believe it. It's right almost to the day, actually, won't it be 3 years?
That's true. Yeah, because it was early July.
Yeah.
Late came back from Shetland.
Yeah, it would have been early July. That's right. You went a little bit later than I did, didn't you? Yeah. So,
yeah.
Crikey. So there you go. So anyway, don't forget Bird Fair. We're going to be there, and we're there for a specific reason, which we've been. Well, some people know about it. I have spoken to people I've bumped into about it to let them know. So probably the genie's out of the bottle anyway. But so basically, we're bringing WildArt back, and we're bringing it back this year, and we're going to open it for entries in July, but with a slightly different twist to it. So we're going to concentrate solely on birds because that's really where our main passion lies, isn't it? For as individuals, the three of us that are involved. So it's myself, it's Josh, and Georgina Statler. We all have this underlying passion for birds, and I always wanted to get back to that. I think that's where my heart really lay with everything, and after taking a break, it just seemed like the obvious thing to do. And I think there's a space in the market for a purely creative bird photography competition. So we're not looking for literal shots. We're looking for people who are pushing the boundaries, who are into the creative photography and want to show us something different. That's where this competition is going to be focused. So we're calling it WildArt Bird Photography Awards. We have a holding page up at the moment. I'll leave a link in the show notes where you can sign up for the newsletter and for information on the contest when it comes up. But we're going to be opening that up officially at Bird Fair, which is 9th, 10th July. But I probably will get the website up and open beginning of July. So we're going to run those entries all the way through to middle of October. Shortlist announced in January, with winners announced in March next year. And we've very kindly been sponsored by Nikon, who are providing a Z8 and a 180 to 600 as the main prize, and by F-Stop Gear as well, who are giving vouchers for category winners. And there'll be some cash and bits and pieces involved as well. But so that's coming. So we thought we'd announce that and have a little chat about it. So, Josh, this is something that honestly it has been exciting us for a while, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And just going through the website and some of the screen boards that you have set up, it's going to be amazing. And for the folks listening too, and you've listened to us talk about photography, specifically bird photography, in so many podcasts. Please, give this a look, give this a chance. I think you're going to be really pleased with the competition. And I'll be honest, Rob, when it comes to bird photography and bird photography contests, there's not a lot these days. And specifically when it comes to creative photography, this is going to be very unique. And it's always so pleasing for me to be part of this, because it's a learning experience too, being a judge, when you see all of this creative imagery come through. And it's just, it's really fantastic.
Yeah. And we're not, we're pushing the boat out in terms of the judges as well. It's very, very important, and always has been for me. I think, people that have been on the WildArt journey before, in the sort of first iteration of the awards, will know that it was always important for me to have photographers as judges that actually could walk the walk, and had won awards, knew what they were talking about. And this is going to be no different. We have been very selective, and I think people will be really pleased with the judging panel that we've got. I don't think I want to talk about that in terms of individuals here and now. We can leave a little bit of mystery. So we'll let people, the
names will be recognizable when they're published.
Exactly. I think they are recognizable names, respected names. And I think everybody involved has more than enough credentials to be judging images that are going to be submitted. Because I think when you're creating this stuff, their images are really important to them, and it's important that they feel like they're being judged by people that have the experience to do so. It gives them confidence, and that's what I wanted, particularly with this, with this new this new sort of iteration of WildArt, that was important. That was important.
Yeah, I totally agree, Rob. Judges should be practitioners of the trade.
Yeah.
If you're going to be judging a wildlife image, you need to be a wildlife photographer, and you need to have that experience and those credentials. Absolutely.
Exactly. And the panel's going to be headed by you and Georgina.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And again, we're not going to name the judges here, but I think everyone will be very impressed when they see the names. It's going to be great. And I can't wait to work with some of these folks too, because I've known them for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. So shall we talk about, I don't want to go on about this for too long, because I want to get on to the actual subject of the podcast, because having talked about WildArt, let's have a discussion about creative photography and what, as far as I'm concerned, or we're concerned, makes a creative image, because that's, it's subjective, right?
Yeah.
So let's get on and talk about that in a bit. But let's quickly just run through the categories, shall we?
Sure.
That we've got, because I think that's, people be interested to to learn exactly. Well, let's run through the structure of the competition. I think that people that were on the WildArt journey before, it was a monthly contest.
Yeah, it's different this
theme
time
every month, and it kind of rolled throughout the year. That worked well, but from my perspective, it's just such a lot of work throughout the course of the whole year, and it's exhausting, and it's very, very difficult to run something like that. So we're going to run it in a more traditional sort of annual format, as people may have got from the first bit of information I gave right at the start. So we are going to open in July, close in October, shortlist January, winners March, and then we run the whole cycle again the following year. So that's the structure of it. But let's give you
and this gives everybody more time, Rob, too, I think, for submission in the categories, whereas last time when we were doing it monthly, the earlier categories you have less time for, et cetera. So
exactly. So let's talk about the first category. So first category is abstracts. Well, creativity, abstracts kind of go together. I think people will understand.
Bread and butter.
Yeah, I think people will understand where we're going with that. Second one, again, is behavior. Again, I think people know what we want, but bear in mind, we're wanting a creative twist to this, rather than just sort of standard, literal, documentary style behavioral shot. We want a bit of creativity in there. Black and white.
Yep.
Again, I think says it all. The one that I think people are probably haven't come across before is a category we're going to call misfits. And this came around from a discussion that we had about sometimes it happens quite a lot actually. You look at a competition and you've got this amazing image, and then you look at the categories and you think it doesn't really fit any of those, or there's not a strong case for it to go into this category or that category. It's a strong image, but actually maybe it's not strong enough to win the category because it's not aligned with the category theme enough. So it sort of falls between these stools, and that's what we want misfits to do. So anything that doesn't feel quite right for a category, or anything you want to put in there, goes into misfits. So it's
I love the title of that category, Rob. The title's pretty great, actually.
It's a bit like us, isn't it? Let's face it.
We could form a band. We'll call ourselves the Misfits. Although that one might be taken already. I don't know.
Yeah, back of my mind. I'm sure it has been. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it kind of sums us up, doesn't it? The collective of the three of us. Misfits was quite appropriate. But I think that's a category that, well, that's something that other competitions haven't addressed in the past.
Totally.
Is that sort of, where does this image go? If it doesn't go anywhere, I can't enter it. Well, yes, you can. Just shove it in misfits. Just shove it in misfits.
I've personally tried to submit to certain contests, Rob, in the past where I had an image that I really liked, and it wouldn't fit, squarely in a particular category, and I wouldn't submit at all. So this gives us that opportunity to have some great images that don't fit in the other categories.
Exactly. Yeah. So the other categories are portraits. Again, I think that's fairly self-explanatory. Small in frame. So yeah, again, I think self-explanatory. Subject small in the frame. Want some negative space or whatever. Ever way you interpret, that title. Then urban. So that sort of urban bird type situation. And then we've got a portfolio award. Again, standard thing. And the youth award. So those are the categories. And we'll explain. I think, when the website comes out, you'll see the category description. I think they're all pretty obvious. But do bear in mind, obviously, that creativity is the theme.
Yeah.
And we'll be looking to award something that pushes the boundaries and surprises.
Yeah, absolutely.
What makes a creative photograph? Or what makes a photograph creative? Which is a good question. So what do we actually do?
And the answer is it's subjective, but we can talk about what we think is creative, certainly.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? The subjectivity is like, if you ask 10 photographers what makes a creative image, you're going to get 10 different answers, right? I mean, that's the whole point of it. And I think that sums it up in a way that if you take a literal image and you're taking it in a documentary style, or it's taken in the style of a, I don't know, field guide or something like that, there's not a lot of subjectivity about that image. It's more objective. You know, you're taking that image for a reason. You're showing somebody what you saw, and you want them to read literally into it. Whereas I think when we're talking about a creative image, we're creating a lot more space between that sort of literal representation and creating more gaps in a viewer's mind, but then to interpret what they want out of an image. And I think that is what we're saying. You know, we want to be at that end of the spectrum, not that I'm telling the viewer what to see and how to interpret the image. You want the viewer to do a lot of the work. And I think that basically is where we're at.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit about this before we started recording, and I like, in the conversation, Rob, we were talking about, instead of teaching or instructing or telling a story through a documentary image, it's an invitation, right? There's room for interpretation, and you're inviting the viewer, the audience, to look at an image, and not everything is just laid plainly for the eyes to see. And I think that's great. It's invitation, I think, is a great way to describe it.
Yeah,
a creative photograph.
And it's a lot of the time it's not what you show, it's what you don't show. And it's those deliberate omissions that are leaving that space to allow that interpretation to come in from the viewer. I showed you an image, interestingly, before we started recording, of that flock at Snettisham.
Yeah.
Because I said to you that, and obviously we've talked about this on the podcast before, so I won't bore everybody with it again. But I said to you that the thing that I took away from that experience was not the visual element of it, although obviously that was part of it. It was the sound of that flock taking off for the first time, made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, and literally, well, did make me cry. I mean, it's just, I could feel it welling up in me, because it's just, and it's trying to get that emotional reaction across in a two-dimensional image is really, really hard. And the image I showed you, the slow shutter flock of birds, which for me sort of portrayed energy, but also tranquility, because of the high key sort of finish that I'd given it, or the twist that I'd given it. And I think it's that generating that emotional response in a viewer, and allowing them to fill those gaps and try to almost make up for the lack of the sound that viewer can't hear, obviously, through the image, but try and get as much information as you can through in a visual way as to what that experience was like. Trying to create that emotional response. That, to me, was the creative side, was the creative part of that image. You couldn't have done that with a fast shutter speed, here's the flock, this is what happened sort of shot, because it just doesn't cut it.
No. And Rob, the images, I don't know what your opinion is on this, but the images that I shoot that I consider creative and less on just the documentarian style, captions aren't as important for me on those images that are creative, because I want the viewer to look at an image and, because I don't serve everything up. It doesn't tell a story from A to Z. And when the viewer looks at it, I want them to get an impression. And some people look at images and they get different impressions. It means different things to different people. And that's part of the creativity piece of it. So from that regard, I try not to be overly descriptive in the captions and say, okay, this is how I shot it. This was my intention. This is how I want you to see this image. For me, I think it takes away from the image when you're overly descriptive in the captions. What's your take on that?
I think you've described it perfectly, actually, because that's exactly my approach. I love it when somebody looks at it, when different people look at an image and they all come up with different interpretations of it. It says different things to them.
Yeah.
You cannot do that with a standard type portrait shot with a light behind you in the traditional way.
Bird on a stick
bird
singing.
on a
Yeah.
stick type thing,
Yeah.
because it is what it is. It
Yeah.
can't be anything else.
Yeah.
Whereas if you take a slow shutter shot that is just all about shape, not necessarily, it's not showing the bird in a literal sense. You might not even be able to see it. Nothing might not be, it might not be in focus even.
Yeah.
That for me, then it allows the viewer to interpret in different ways. And I love that. And I think that's the essence of creativity.
Yeah, I agree. And taking creative images, typically, from my perspective, most of my creative images and the images that I take in general are of common species. So over here, it's great blue heron, it's osprey, it's a bald eagle, it's a white-tailed deer, what have you. And it's a celebration of nature itself. And it's less about, oh, look, I found this really rare species and it's a specific type of warbler singing on a branch. The unique thing in and of itself is I found this animal, but this isn't about that. It's a celebration of in nature. It's a celebration of how artistic really nature is when you look into it and how beautiful it is. And anything that we can produce on our own will never be as beautiful as nature. And it comes through the common species. I think it really does.
Yeah. And I thoroughly agree with that. And that's, nature is beautiful. Nature, people call nature perfect, but it's not. And I actually love the imperfections in nature as well. And I love to celebrate those things. And I love images that aren't perfect.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you can have a perfect image, but you know what I'm saying. It's just, people will look at certain images and if you, a lot of images there'll be a consensus of opinion on some one way or another. And I think those are the images that are less creative. So if there's less to think about, it's technically good, the lighting's good, the focus is in the right place, the point of view is the right area, the depth of field sorted, the overall composition is good. There's not a lot to dislike or argue about or disagree on. Whereas if you get something creative, that causes that disagreement between people, and that's I love it. I love that.
And creativity, I think, in wildlife photography or bird photography specifically, it embraces the chaos in nature, right? It's not, nature isn't symmetrical. Nature isn't always clean. It could be dirty, and it breaks the rules in many ways of clean lines and some of these things that we as humans are trained, whether it's through architecture or interior design or what have you, to like certain things that are clean and symmetrical. And it isn't always that way. Creative photography breaks those rules, I think.
Yeah, it takes people away from that. This is comfortable because this is what I know.
Yeah.
So this is a good image. This meets all the things that I've learned. Everything that I know, this image meets. But what's exciting about that? If you're like me, you like pushing some boundaries and breaking some rules. It's like, well, that's the rule. Okay, that might work most of the time, but what would happen if? And I admire people that think that thought. What would happen if I did this? So it's rather, okay, so you take high key, for example, and a lot of, if you go down the textbook route, high key, go one stop over, maybe two stops over. Oh, that's a lovely high key. No. What happens if I go 5 stops over, 6 stops over? What happens then? What happens then if only one little bit of the exposure is showing, one little dark outline or something like that? What happens if I shoot directly into the sun? What happens? What happens if I close the exposure down completely and just show the one little outline and the rest is black? What happens if I do that? What happens if I don't go 1/30th of a second on a slow shutter and I go 1 second on a bird in flight? What happens? 2 seconds? What happens? And then actually what happens is you open your mind to the possibilities, and every now and again you'll get an image, you'll go, oh, I've not seen that before. Well, you know why you haven't seen it before? Because nobody's tried it before, because everybody's in this sort of closed space where they think, well, this is how you shoot a photograph. And that's what I've got to stick to. I've got to stick within those It's almost like having training wheels on. I can't take the training wheels on because I might fall off the bike. Well, actually, it doesn't matter if you do.
Yeah.
I learn something.
You're not going to get hurt. You're just going to delete the images.
It's right. It's free. It doesn't matter. You just delete it.
Yeah.
But what happens if you don't know until you try? And that is, for me, that's, when you start pushing those boundaries and you start doing things with intent. And I think that's the key here. You intentionally do something. It's not like, oh, I took this photograph, nothing's in focus, but actually it works because my focus point missed. But actually, doesn't it work? No, I want to be doing those things on purpose because they look deliberate when you do it.
And it expands your capability as a photographer. Like you said, Rob, what you don't want to get stuck in is figuring out a technical way to take an image that's a front lit animal or a bird, and then you just repeat that traveling all over the globe, and you're just repeating that same pattern but just putting a different species in the frame, right? That isn't necessarily super exciting. And to be fair, everybody starts on a continuum, right, Rob? It's a journey, right? I've started just documenting and taking pictures of different types of birds and animals and saying, hey, look, I found this, and here it is. And then we all kind of progress along that continuum, and we find different ways of how we want to express ourselves, right? And certain things speak to us, and then we'll experiment, we'll try different things, and we create our own style. And what's beautiful about this too, when it comes to creative photography, you can do this in your own backyard. You can do it anywhere. You don't need to travel the world or go to a far and distant location to come up with a creative photograph. Oftentimes, the most creative photographs that I've seen, and what you were showing me even before the podcast, Rob, these are common species that we can find in our backyard that allow us a couple of things. They're confiding. They allow us approach. They allow us to see them on a daily basis. We can spend time with them. And in doing so, we can create, we can fail, we can experiment, we can do things. And we can show, I think, as I was talking before, how beautiful nature can be and these common species. So it's something that's available to everybody out there.
And I think it's a good place to start anyway, because if you're photographing something common, if you fail, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You just go and try again. And
it's not a spoon-billed sandpiper in Siberia. That's almost extinct. Yeah, I agree.
I don't think anybody, neither of us will be trying slow shutter with that to start with.
I don't think so.
I mean, there are limits, right? But I've lost my train of thought. But starting with the common stuff, it doesn't matter. And this is where I was going with this. And actually, even if you get nothing that works, what you will get is an experience. So you'll learn from it, and you go, okay, that didn't work, but why didn't it work? Or is there an aspect of that was close? I mean, I did this with you today, didn't I? I showed you an image that I'd taken, and I said to you, I know this isn't the finished result, but this is the idea I've had. What do you think? And then you gave me the feedback on that, and then so this is this process of iteration, and so if you learn from each of those stages, then you progress. As I think you progress, but start with something that's common, because then you can go back and try just those sort of small little tweaks from what you did before and try and improve the result. And then once you gain that experience, you can take that on to other things, and you go, oh, that reminds me of how I shot that. Maybe I could try that in this situation. And I think eventually you build this knowledge of how things work, because you're right, we all start with this, we all have to learn, and we all have to learn how the camera works. We all have to learn how the relationship between shutter speed and aperture and ISO, and then we all have to learn how it feels to over and underexpose, and how we balance that exposure. We all have to learn what sort of shutter speed we need to, if we want a sharp image of a bird in flight or a small bird doing, some crazy stuff. And, when those movements are really, really fast, we all get that experience, and that takes time to build that.
Yeah.
And I think we all need to do that, because without that knowledge, we can't move on to the next phase, because we're not going to be able to understand what we actually do in that next phase that creates the images that we're creating. So you have to have that understanding.
And thankfully, due to technology, due to looking at our exposures through an electronic viewfinder, all of these other things, AI tracking and everything else, that time period has been compressed
Yeah.
significantly due to technology,
Yeah.
that first piece, which is great because I think it gets people in a position much quicker to start experimenting. I mean, years ago when I was shooting with DSLRs and whatnot, optical viewfinders, all these other things, it took me a while to get through that phase, and I think it's been compressed. And we both see it, Rob. I mean, so many photographers I'll see online, even in social media. I mean, they're putting out just dynamite material, and I will talk to them, and I'm like, "How long have you been shooting?" "Oh, I started, about a year or two ago." I'm like, "Oh my God." So yeah, I mean that early phase has been compressed through technology, and I think that's a good thing.
That's a good point, actually, because I believe that you could take somebody in the course of a weekend from being an absolute beginner with the technology
Yeah.
we've got now to shooting bird on a stick images
Yeah.
relatively consistently in a weekend. I firmly believe you could do that.
Yeah. 3 variables, right? I mean,
Yeah.
aperture, shutter, and ISO. So,
Well, composition as well,
yeah. That's the harder one, I
that's the
think.
harder
Yeah.
one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But the technical side of things, if you've got a reasonably bright person that is open to learning and is interested, in a weekend you could teach them to take good bird on a stick images.
Yeah.
So you're right.
Absolutely.
That learning process, I think, has been accelerated since digital, and even more so since mirrorless. I mean, when was the last time you actually looked at your exposure meter and even judged how far up or under or overexposed you were?
No, I mean, I can't remember it. And I have to say, it's a little frustrating for some folks that I'll shoot with because they'll say, "What's your EXIF data? What's your shutter speed? What's this?" I'm like, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. I mean, what matters most is how you're framing up the image and how you're composing it. Everything else is small potatoes. It really is. I mean, there could be some extremes, clearly, and I could have my exposure kind of sideways if I'm shooting in bright light and I'm pushing my whatever. But a lot of that stuff just doesn't matter, which is great. You can play around with it and expose. You don't have to talk about the rule of 16 or the Sunny 16, I think it used to be called, and all these different things. It just doesn't matter anymore. You shoot to taste, and it's amazing.
Yeah. And the thing about that is that there's only normally one of those variables is the important thing, right?
Yeah.
So is it shutter speed? Do you want to freeze the action? Do you want blur? Right. So that's the decision you've got to make. And then it's okay. Well, bearing in mind that, where has my ISO got to be to be able to achieve that shutter speed at the most wide open aperture, let's say, and then I'll work from there and go, right, do I really want the aperture wide open? But the most important thing is the shutter speed and the balance of ISO, because I'm shooting high key, I don't mind 10,000 ISO. I just don't.
Yeah. Or if you're not and you're shooting like a mid-range or a mid-tone image or a darker image, sometimes you want that grain. It's about kind of the texture even on the shot itself. Sometimes I'll bump the ISO just because I like the grit, if that makes sense. Especially when it's raining, you get that grit. I think it looks great. A little noise never hurt an image. Everybody wants silky smooth, but you don't need it.
I mean, silky smooth in certain situations, great. And, but yeah, leave it in. It's at times, particularly when you're doing black and white or something like that.
Yeah,
it is
absolutely.
It is a bit dark. It gives you that old black and white sort of cinematic type feel, doesn't it? And
corresponds on prints too really well. I think grain comes off well on prints, and then also aperture, right? Do you want narrow depth of field, silky smooth in the background? I don't know why I keep saying silky smooth. Somebody mentioned that to me years ago and it stuck in my head. Or do you want, you're shooting environmental portrait and you want to show a little bit of the background? It just depends.
Or you're shooting with a wide angle lens and you actually do want a lot of the stuff in focus.
Yeah.
That in itself, the pure literal nature of that sort of documentary style of image is creative. I'm not saying that, when I'm talking about creative, we're talking about nothing in focus or everything's blurry or, there's, it's all high key. There's loads of negative space. It doesn't necessarily need to be that way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I was just thinking about this too, Robin, when it comes to the new WildArt contest that's about to launch. Creativity is not always camera movement. It's not always high key. It's not always low key. Creativity for each of you out there, it's being authentic. It's being able to do something that you feel is creative and unique and carries your voice into the image. It can be many different things. So always think about that. And frankly, when it comes to photo contests, the images that win are the images that are unique, and it's because they're authentic. Don't try to copy. Try to come up with something that speaks to you as a photographer. That's the best advice I can give anybody when it comes to creative photography. It's your voice. It's your vision.
Yeah, it's. I think that's really important. It's developing your style, isn't it? And that, the further you go along this journey, excuse me, the more your style comes out. And it's when, and I tell you, I've used ChatGPT actually. Other AI programs are available, obviously, or assistants are available, but actually using AI in that sense has been a really positive thing for me, because you can put images in for it to review and give it and tell it what you're trying to do, and it'll give you lots of really good advice. It's very good for somebody like me with my ADHD brain, where I can't necessarily distill things down into one or two key issues. I've got loads of things going off in my head, like fireworks in the sky, this is what's happening, but it will quite often distill things down into one or two key points and say, I see this theme emerging in your work. And that's been so good for me, because now it's saying, this is Rob Reed's voice, it's this sort of thing. And I feel now that there is a pattern emerging in the work that I do, to the point where I think other people who've seen my work a lot might well be able to recognize what's one of my photographs and what isn't. And I think when you start developing that type of style or that outlook on things, I think that's where most of the creativity comes from. Don't ever get stuck in a rut. I mean, my thing is just to keep exploring and keep doing new stuff, but there's always an underlying theme there. There's always because I think that's just the way people's brains are wired, isn't it? And they, you just got to.
Yeah.
Sorry, my email's going mad for some reason. If you're hearing pings going on, it's just like I had about 4 in a row. So, let me just chuck this thing across the other side of the wall. Being authentic and developing a style, I think, is really important.
Yeah, and once you develop your style and you create your own, voice, and you're being authentic with your photography, it's going to inspire you to continue on. I think that step is where a lot of photographers will stop. They'll start to document, they'll start to look at other photographers that inspire them. They'll try to recreate these images in the field. They're going to go out, they're going to try to collect species, all these different, more rare animals, get photos of them. They build up their portfolio. But if they don't eventually find their voice in the process and continue to create and be unique, that's typically where they stop. And they'll either just keep shooting the same way over and over again for many, many years, or they simply just walk away and they don't bring their camera out that often. So that's the key piece, I think, is figuring out, once you master your craft, once you get a lot of different opportunities under your belt, developing your own style and moving forward with that. That is the key piece. And once you get beyond that, I feel it provides inspiration for you, and you just continue to explore, and it just becomes always, for the most part, it's gratifying, and being out in the field and experiencing nature, and realizing too that when you're out there and you're finding these images, it's not about you. It's about capturing the beauty of nature and what comes in front of your lens, right? Yeah. And just being appreciative for all of it, and having gratitude.
And it gives you a confidence.
Yeah.
It gives you a confidence. And once you get that, then I think that really helps that sort of journey, that exploratory journey, that I think, from my own point of view, I would get bored shooting those style of images, impersonating other people effectively, which is what you do for the first part of your journey in this, photographic journey. You are effectively impersonating other people. Because you need to know how everything works.
Yeah.
And we all take inspiration from other people, but I think that's different, because you're taking ideas and then you're giving them your own twist, putting your own voice onto them. And you can only do that once you've got that experience. And really, when the whole thing starts telling you that this is the route to take. This is where you've had
Yeah.
success. This is what you're happy producing. This is what you want to produce. And I don't think it matters whether people like it or they don't, frankly. I think as long as you're being true to yourself and you're creating the work that makes you happy, that's the most important thing, I think.
I agree. I completely agree. And I find, again, this is just my opinion, there's certain types of personalities that lend themselves more to getting stuck in a rut and from a creativity standpoint. And I see them all the time. It's a lot of people who, and we're all like this in a way, right, Rob? We go to school, we're taught do well, read the book, get A's, work hard. You have a lot of like retired engineers and people who are they've got these striving personalities. Okay, I need to do this because I have to get from point A to point B, and then I'm going to work hard, and then I'm going to get from point A to point C. I find when you approach things through that kind of striving mentality, you're more apt to get stuck along the process. What's more important, I think, it's being curious, right? Walking outside and just
100%.
being curious. Yeah, how does this work? What if I do this? It's actually not about painting within the lines. It's about stepping outside of the rules and just playing around and just always being curious, always exploring different things. Those types of personalities, and I would define it more just simply by people who are curious, they seem to find their voices earlier on their photography journey than the striving, let me read the rule book and I need to go from here to there. It's not a timeline either, and that's important when it comes to creative photography. It may take somebody 20 years to come up with things that are creative or where they find their voice. And some people, maybe it's a lot less time, but it's not a board game. It's not a race. It's not a competition from that perspective. So it's important to be open-minded. I think it's important to be curious.
And I think the other thing is that I think what you got to remember is that society is designed to kick the creative crap out of you.
Yeah.
Basically.
Conform.
Yeah, because people will turn around and say, well, I'm not creative. Well, I don't believe that. And in fact, studies have shown, I think there was something, Georgina was mentioning this to me, actually. There's something about a NASA study showed that, they took kids at, nursery school age kids, and they did some sort of creativity study with them. And it was like 98% of them showed, creative instincts. Whereas you get them in secondary school, for example, and by the time they get to that point, they've been into this machine that has pushed them all in the same direction, and the creativity has been lost because it's not the fact that it wasn't there to start with. It's just not, it just hasn't been encouraged. In fact, completely the opposite. And I think this is the problem with modern society. It just naturally seems to do that to our brains and tell us that we're not creative, and it's simply not true. It's simply not true.
I agree. I have to wonder too, like when you're young, I mean, what's that part of your brain, the thinking brain, the neofrontal cortex, it's not even fully developed yet, right? So it's that time where kids get to be wired up, and if you're wiring young people up to your point, follow the rules and conform, it can knock out a lot of those things early on. Even, most people in corporate culture, right? They have the vest, it's got the company logo on it, the mug, and this is the company's values. Everybody kind of moves into these things in and out. I see it on LinkedIn. It's kind of embarrassing when you see some
and all
of the
their
things
profiles
people
say exactly the same thing with the same buzzwords and terms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's to your point. Yeah, it's beaten out of a lot of people, and it's harder to find it, I think, later on. But like anything else, you can always find it.
Yeah. No, I agree. There was something else I was going to mention. There was a phrase I've got. Hold on.
I'm trying to think of that Picasso phrase, Rob, that we were.
Oh, you mean learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist.
That's it. Yeah, that's a beautiful statement, right? I mean, just
yeah. I love that quote. I think it sums it up because it sums up what we've been saying. It's like, you can't break rules until you know what they are.
Yep.
So you've got to learn them. Okay. So once you know what they are, well, then you know that you can break them deliberately.
Yep.
And I think that encapsulates the way I see creative photography. I think it is breaking those rules. That's all it is, or testing them. It's pushing it's pushing those boundaries, as I was saying, and it's finding your own voice.
Yeah, and that can be done for somebody that's been holding a camera for a couple of months, or it can be done with someone holding a camera for 30 years. There's no timetable around that too. Some of the best images I've seen recently are from photographers who just picked up a camera not that long ago. And in some ways it's pure too. And this goes back to what you were describing with kids and how they're brought up through schooling. If I gave a camera to 3 photographers, 2 of them have been shooting, let's say, for 5 or 6 years, and they've learned all the technical rules, and I'll say, go out and make a great image here, walk around this wetland. And I gave a camera to somebody who just recently learned the rules and maybe had a camera for a month or so, and I would say to that individual, find something that really speaks to you. I'm going to bet that I will get some standard portraits from the first 2, some standard things, some low-level, eye-level kind of shallow depth of field shots of some wildlife from the first 2. But it's the third one that there's the wild card. There's going to be that interesting wild card. It's going to come from that third photographer. So
haven't they done that with TV shows recently? I think something in the back of my mind said there was a TV show on photography or something. Like,
I wish they do it with movies. I mean, every movie that comes out is so terrible these days. I mean, good Lord.
Well, you see, the thing is that's such a good analogy, actually, because here's the formula, right? So we're Hollywood, okay? Here's the formula for a successful movie. This is what you do, and it's going to be a box office hit. So you do that because there's a guarantee. It's safe, right?
Yeah.
I think that corresponds to our literal photograph with a nice light and all this, doing all the technical stuff right. It's safe. You should put it on Instagram and people are going to like it.
Yeah.
But people are also going to forget it.
We need Martin Scorsese, Rob. We don't want Michael Bay. It's funny that the biggest box office film over here now is He-Man. Can you believe that? It was like a cartoon from the 1980s that sold action figures.
This is exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's insane.
Exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
You want Reservoir Dogs. That's what you want.
That's right. Yeah.
Or Clockwork Orange or something like that.
Apocalypse Now. Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about those things that bend convention, I guess. I call it I think there's another good phrase that I actually came up with, and it was called controlled ambiguity. So it's not like you're going completely out there and just letting loose and just forgetting everything you've learned. I'm not saying that. But there's a control in there. You've got the lessons that you've learned in the back of your mind, and then you're using them to control what the viewer then sees, because you have the experience to be able to do that in any given situation. So I think I think the sweet spot with those images comes when you give the viewer enough. So there's a hook, right? You get a little hook, and then the viewer has to do the rest of the work. And that's the sweet spot.
Yeah. The intention is the invitation, right? Yeah.
You're controlling this ambiguity and not going completely off the wall, so there's nothing, so you can't recognize anything in the frame. You're just giving them something, and I think there's the skill. Yeah,
I agree. And it's not a skill, again, that has to be developed over 30 years too. I mean, when it comes to the contest, I expect when we start judging these images, we're going to see some amazing stuff from photographers who've just picked up a camera recently, or they've only been shooting for a year or two. You don't have to be quote seasoned pro to produce these types of images. You need to just be curious and creative.
And it may well be that because they haven't got any rules.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
it's freeing in a way.
This is why I think you always get some surprising images from the young category. And I can tell people that the young category, in most competitions, if they're the same as the ones that I've been involved in, you don't get that many entries. But sometimes, well, more often than not, actually, you'll get 1 or 2 images where you go, wow. If that was in the adult category, that would do really well. And we've had this discussion in WildArt before.
Yeah.
On more than one occasion, when we've had a really good image in the youth category, and you go, this would actually compete,
Yeah.
if not win.
Yeah.
From the because, and I think it's that there are no the constraints aren't there that we all impose on ourselves.
I often wonder too on the youth categories, Rob. I've seen this in many contests where there's not many youth entries, even in contests where the youth entry is free, right? I don't know if it's a cultural thing, whether it's like, Gen Z, and now we have Gen Alpha coming up, where there's less of an inclination to be judged, right? It could be, I don't know what drives that, but it's always been surprising to me because certainly there's probably a lot more mature, retired folks out there with expensive gear photographing wildlife. I get that. But there's a lot of young people out there. I see it on social media. Even, take away the camera, just birding in general. Everybody's really getting into it. And most people, especially since COVID, they want to connect with nature. They're out there. And there's a lot more younger people out there. I haven't been able to figure that out, why we don't see a lot of youth entries. Hopefully that'll change this time around.
Yeah, I mean, me neither. I mean, it's always been a mystery to me as to why then they're not more popular than they are. As you say, even if you make it free, which is,
yeah.
I mean, there's always an argument as to say, why are you charging? Because we will. I mean, I'm not going to go into that now, but there is a good reason for that. And you're right. Even when you don't charge, you don't seem to get. What happens actually when you don't charge is you get more people trying to cheat, actually, and you get
those 19th birthdays get extended by
age group that you're trying to attract, who are submitting images. And that's a problem if you make it free.
Yeah.
Because some people will do anything. I tell you, I don't put it past. Well, we know this. We've discussed it before with some of the fake images that have done well in some major competitions and haven't been found out until afterwards. We've had that.
There's also been controversy I've seen over the years where somebody the adult will take the image and they'll submit it through their child, right? And then I've seen that too, which is interesting.
You also get the situation. Oh God, this is a can of worms, isn't it?
We're going from creativity to corruption, right?
Yeah.
Well, corruption is probably too strong of a word, but
but you see, herein lies some of the issues with organizing these things.
Yes.
Because this is what people don't see, right? And I get it. When a mistake is made in a competition, and that happens from time to time. And it will always happen. It's nearly happened with us, in past cycles of WildArt where, anyway, I think we've discussed that one before. But there'll always be a mistake that will be made. And I don't think it's necessarily about the mistake that's made. It's the way it's handled afterwards that is the defining thing for people. And that's what gives people the confidence or otherwise, in a certain competition is to how that competition then deals with the problem.
You need to have it needs to be transparent, and it can't be a cover up.
Or no information coming out about it. It's just, we disqualified this image. We're not going to tell you why. And then you look at the image and you go, well, it's obvious why that's been disqualified, and why the hell wasn't it thrown out beforehand? But anyway, I think the thing about running anything like this is, I think integrity is the key word here. And I think you have to be honest, and people have to believe and have confidence in you as an organizer that you will do the right thing in any given situation, and that they trust you. And I think that is very difficult to build that, and it's very easy to destroy it.
I agree.
Doing the wrong thing.
And the good news is, Rob, we have someone on the judging panel that knows a little bit about integrity and ethics, and
we have more than one person on the judging panel that knows a little bit more.
That's true. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was thinking of one specific individual, but
Anyway.
Yeah.
All
right, enough teasing.
Enough teasing. If you wanted somebody to take one thing away from the sort of creativity discussion, and you wanted to define it in one sentence. I'm going to put you on
Oh
the spot
boy.
here.
Oh boy.
I can see
All
him
right.
looking
This is going to
worried
be
as
a
I was
run-on.
going
This might
there.
be a run-on sentence,
What would
Rob.
it be? I thought I'd get it in before you got it in with me, actually.
Yeah, I think, and I think just it just sums up our conversation thus far here in the podcast. I think it's essentially finding your own voice. It's not on a timetable. You can find your own voice. Your journey can be shorter or longer. It just depends. You don't have to be a seasoned pro to come up with a creative image. I think it ultimately comes down to, wow, this is a long sentence, Rob. I'm refining it as I go along. It's being curious. It's finding your own voice and experimentation. I would also say too. It's not being afraid to fail.
Yeah.
There's your very long sentence.
Yeah, and I think maybe for me, it's you're never wrong. Never be wrong. If it speaks to you, you're not wrong. And just find what speaks to you. Find what makes you tick. What pleases you. Don't care about anybody else. It's nice if you have that adoration from other people, and I guess that's what competitions are all about as well. I mean, that's what you're looking for, isn't it? You're looking for people to agree with you. But that's the thing. The more creative you are, the more divisive you're going to be, and that's a good thing. That
Absolutely.
is a good thing. Actually, if you're dividing the crowd, it means you've made it and you've done it.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, and it's just it's that old adage, right? Whether in your professional career, with your relationships, with your friends and family, not everybody's going to like you. And that's okay. And if you have detractors, that means you have an opinion and your voice is being heard. The last thing, my opinion, anybody wants to go through life is to try to be the ultimate people pleaser and never express an opinion and try to agree with everything, right? Having detractors or having people that don't agree with you, that's a good thing. You're making your voice heard. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
And copycat images don't win contests. They don't. It's the images that are not copycat images that typically win contests.
It's the ones that are unique, that stand out, the judges have never seen before, and you're not going to take that sort of image by imitating. And you need to find your own voice, and it takes a long time to do that. It's not a fast process. It's taken me, and I still haven't found it 100% that I'm happy with. It's taken me years, and this is the thing. I don't think it is an overnight thing. Yes, you have the one-hit wonders, but the people that stay, if you want a music analogy, which
oh boy, I just had Kajagoogoo in my head.
yeah. If you want a music analogy, it's the people that work hard and stick around and keep at it that are successful in the long term, rather than just having one or two hits and are gone overnight. And I think it's the same.
Thompson Twins.
Yeah.
Crappy English mid-80s synth music, but
well, let's not go there. There was bad
I can pick on American bands because there's plenty of them too.
Anyway, it's probably a good place to leave it.
I think so. And one thing I will say, Rob, and to everybody out there who's listening, we just want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to us. We're obviously small. We're independent. We don't go by sponsors. We don't have sponsorships. And the whole point of that is to bring our authentic voice to you all. And we just want to thank everybody. Also, to spread the word on the podcast. Other photographers that you are friends with, other wildlife enthusiasts, let them know about the podcast. Please, just if that's one thing you can do, please spread the word on the podcast. And also give us a review. You can get us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever medium you're using to listen to this podcast. If you can, just take a few seconds of your time and give us a positive review if you find the information helpful to you all. And finally, I'll say buy us a coffee. Rob puts in the show notes for each of the episodes now a little link where you can go in there and buy us a coffee that we can use for Starbucks or whatever, or maybe even a beer, Rob, every so often.
And I haven't said anything to Josh about this, funnily enough, but I think what I would rather do with Buy Me a Coffee is to donate that to the conservation cause that we will be supporting through WildArt, which is the other thing that we should mention. And because the money is not about the money for us. It's, you know, the podcast, as I said, we do it because we love it. We do it in our, you know, and give our time because I enjoy this you know, the conversations I have with Josh and the other photographers we get on here from time to time. And I would much rather ask the audience for a donation into a conservation cause. And this year we're going to be supporting basically conservation of various species of black cockatoo in Western Australia, which is Georgina's thing. So she had the choice this year, and I think it's a really, you know, I think it's a really worthy cause. And basically that money will go to buying more food plants that this organization will then plant in those areas to increase the habitat and the food available. So it's a sustainable thing long term, rather than just doing, you know, one thing that's going to run out and fizzle out in years to come. I think it's, you know, that sort of thing can make a positive long term impact. And we want to support causes that where a small amount of money can make a really big difference. So it's going directly into nest boxes or food plant or something, you know, those types of things, where so it's not getting sucked up into some large organization that's using it for admin and all this other stuff. That's where we want grassroots conservation projects. And it was being run through a little theme we've got going actually called Be the Mosquito. And if you want to know where that comes from, then that's a speech that Georgina gave when she was at Wildlife Photographer of the Year last year, accepting her category win for the insects or the invertebrates category there. And basically it's based around the proverb, if you think you're too small to make a difference, you've never spent the night in a tent with a mosquito, which basically translates that we all think we're too small to make a difference, but actually we're not. Collectively, we can make a big difference. We all just need to do our thing. And so that's, you know, that's where all that comes from. So I think that's, you know, that's what I'd like to do with that. So those buy me a coffees are going directly into conservation. And Josh, if you're happy with that.
That works for me. That works for me, Rob.
Good.
I mean, going into conservation and helping these animals and birds, I mean, that's much better for the planet than some additional caffeine for Josh and Rob. So yeah. I think that's great.
And the paper cup that ends up being thrown away at the end of it.
Styrofoam, no.
Yeah, exactly. So, and actually, if you are coming to Bird Fair, there's going to be a couple of little bits of merch. I mean, there'll only be little pin badges or something like that, which we'll be selling to get that money to go into that conservation cause as well. So come along. And that's the other thing to say, actually, if you are coming to Bird Fair, come and pick up a copy of the WildArt book. You know, we did the very first year of WildArt, you know, produced a book. I'm giving the rest of the stock away. So just come and get a book. And if you like the book, make a donation to the conservation cause. How about that?
Great. Yeah, a lot of inspiration in that book. I actually went through it not that long ago. I can't wait to see what we're going to get for this contest that it's going to open in July. Really, it's going to be amazing.
It's going to be amazing. So make sure you're a part of it. I'll leave a link to the website in the show notes, so you know, everybody go and click on that. I said there should be something up and running. Well, the whole thing should be up by the beginning of July, so you can have a good look through that. You know, good look through the website and see what the categories are, see who the judges are, and all the other information and bits and pieces you need, and the rules, of course, the ever important rules, which you will need to read before you enter. So, anyway, Josh, been good to catch up.
Yeah, it's been too long, and look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
I Bird Fair will be here before you know it.
And
less than a month.
That's the other thing to say. Actually, is the day before I pick you up from Heathrow on the Thursday, I'm doing a workshop with Yuri Hrbicek in Richmond Park. So that's going to be fun. So I don't think there are any places available for that. I think he's filled it, but I'll leave a link to Yuri in the show notes as well. So if anybody fancies, well, if there are spaces available, I think they're all gone, but get in touch with Yuri anyway. He's a great guy. And he may or may not have something to do with WildArt as well. amazingly creative photographer, and you'll know Yuri for his slow shutter stuff because he's an absolute master at that. So
look forward to meeting him. I can't wait to meet him.
I'm looking forward to seeing him again, and I'm looking forward to spending a day with him to see how he does it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Josh, good to talk, good to catch up.
Likewise.
And I guess the next time we speak, it'll be at the airport, so I'll be picking him up, and we'll be heading to Bird Fair. So
looking forward to it. It's been a couple of years since I've been in the UK, so I can't wait to get back.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks everybody for listening. I hope that the discussion has been inspiring, and the news is inspiring. So we hope to see you all in WildArt in the months to come. So
and stop by Bird Fair if you see us.
Stop by Bird Fair and come and see us. I think it's stand 36, but we're next to the mural in the art marquee, so in the puffin marquee. So so come and say hi. It'd be good to chat to you. All right, Josh. Thanks for your time. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll catch you again next time.
Cheers.
You have been listening to the Wildlife Photography Podcast. If you have enjoyed the content, then please help us to spread the word by sharing a link on your social media platforms, giving us a like, and leaving us a comment. See you all again next time.